And joining us right now on the KTAR Newsmaker line is Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. Good morning, Senator Flake, and Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You too.
Now, this is a serious subject, and we thought it was important to have you in here because you're smack dab in the middle of it. And now, it is a little bit wonky and nerdy. We can acknowledge that, but I do think it's important. So why don't you help us understand what an AUMF is and why it's important? How, you know what I'm saying? We're going to do a little education, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, the Constitution gives Congress the authority to declare war. And we haven't declared war in a long time. What we do these days is provide an authorization for the use of military force to the president. And we've done that over the past several decades when we've had a conflict. But this time, for this campaign against ISIS, we have not authorized the president to take action. The president claims authority from a previous AUMF, the one that we did right after 2011. I'm sorry, after 9/11.
9/11, yeah.
And the RAND Corporation just came out. Their analysis was that it would take constitutional gymnastics to try to justify going with that old AUMF. And I think it's important. One, our troops need to know that the entire U.S. government, not just the administration, is behind them. Our allies need to know that we speak with one voice, and certainly our adversaries do as well. And so it's important for Congress to speak here.
Okay, so you're speaking out about this, sir, but I'm not hearing too many other people talk about this. So what kind of support do you have in Congress to get something like this passed?
Well, it's growing. Myself and Tim Kaine, a Democrat from Virginia, introduced a few months ago a bipartisan AUMF, saying let's at least use this as a starting point. And that was just introduced in the House, that same language. So it's bipartisan, bicameral at this point. And there are growing calls among our colleagues for Congress to take the responsibility to take action here. So I hope that it happens. Okay,
so lay it out for us then. What exactly are some of the key provisions of this resolution that you're proposing?
Well, we want to make sure that the Commander-in-Chief has all the authority to use all necessary force to win this war. We've been dropping bombs on ISIL now for, 16 months. We've had one American killed, several injured, a few others killed just, because of the campaign, but not in the campaign. And then we still haven't declared or given the president authority here. So what our legislation does is give the president all due authority. And the way, typically, and this isn't, down the line, but those on the Democratic side tend to want to restrict the president's activities to say no ground troops should be allowed. Republicans tend to say no, use all appropriate force. So what our language does is give the president authority to use all appropriate force, but we include a purpose section or kind of a whereas clause that says that, the purpose of this is to aid our allies and to drive ISIS out and to destroy ISIS. And that shouldn't require the use of ground troops. And so we're trying to finesse it as well as we can and make it a bipartisan measure.
Senator Flake, why is the default position, and it's been this way for a while. You can acknowledge, going back through our nation's history, we have fought some wars. Let's get that out of the way. We just don't declare war anymore. What is the motivation, or what is the political machinations behind not declaring war? But I mean, tell somebody we haven't fought a war in Afghanistan. Tell them we didn't fight a war in Iraq. Those most certainly, they're as wary as war gets, but we never declare war.
Henry Hyde, who was a great legal scholar, used to be chair of the International Relations Committee in the House. Several years ago, I remember him saying, I don't think that we will ever declare war again, partly because of some technical things that people don't think about. insurance, for example, and what some insurance policies do or exclude in times of war or declared war. And it seems strange to look at something like that. But let's face it, the replacement for declaring war is giving the president an AUMF, or Authorization for Use of Military Force. And so I think that it's all. I mean, we have had the Secretary of Defense say in the last couple of weeks, we are at war.
Yeah. Well,
I think Congress ought to take the appropriate steps.
And Senator Flake, I would credit you with that, because I think if you understand anything what either the Obama administration or the military leaders are saying, is that this war is going to well outlast President Obama, the next president, whoever they might be. Shouldn't we have some framework if this is going to extend multiple administrations?
You know, that's an excellent point. This president has said, and we all understand, that this campaign against ISIS will last long beyond this presidency. And so that's why it's so important to have Congress involved, the Article 1 branch that is tasked with declaring war, to actually give the president this authority. We do, in the AUMF language that we have proffered, it does have a 3-year sunset. I believe that's important because the next president will come in, and we ought to debate this again.
Mm-hmm. Senator,
this ought to be debated every couple of years.
Senator Flake, I want to switch gears for just a moment here and get your thoughts on something that a lot of people are talking about right now, and that is Donald Trump. And I know you tweeted out earlier this week that just when you thought that Donald Trump could stoop no lower, he does. Donald Trump is known for his bombastic and provocative statements, but do you think that he crossed a line with his Muslim ban statement?
Well, I think he's crossed several lines over the past several months, let's face it. But this one was particularly egregious. And I just thought it was an awful thing to say. I don't think that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, and it seems that, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier, there's a battle, I hate to say for the soul of the Republican Party, but even then looking at some of the polling data, the kind of support for these things, there's a divide inside the Republican Party. How is this going to be solved?
Well, I think that as we come closer to election year, that people tend to take their responsibility to vote seriously. And Republicans are smart. We'll come around, and as we get into next year, I think we'll be more serious about who we actually choose. There has not been a vote. People haven't caucused yet. We're still 50 days out from Iowa, and I just don't think that Mr. Trump will go very far.
Senator Flake, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and again, have a happy holiday with you and all the family, all the Flakes, and there's a lot of them. Careful. That's Snowflake, Arizona. I don't know. Senator Jeff Flake talking about, listen, I think that authorization for use of military force is important. I think that regardless of who the president is, regardless of what you think about this president or who the next president might be, shouldn't the people's representatives, the Congress of the United States, and this is the power, this is the power of the presidency versus the power of Congress. It's pretty clear. The Constitution says that Congress is the one to declare war. And if we're going to send men and women and we're going to have a generational war, let's go through the process. Let's have the debate in the people's house. Do you know what I'm saying? And not just leave it up to one person to make those decisions, the President of the United States. Certainly agree with Senator Flake on that. Hey, there's it's getting around movie season.